I guess Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. All right, awesome. Everybody's awake. So it's the unique thing I found over here is there are no professors here. Oh, okay. So you're not organizing this, you're just, I guess, watching.
I'm the coordinator for this.
Oh, okay. So I was actually just about to praise Mohit and all the students here that they're able to pull this off just on their own. Maybe let's give them a big applause. Pure volunteering. I don't think they will get any immediate material benefit, right? So that's what we need from most of us, really. Volunteering, doing great work, just for the sake of this. I think, you already did a good intro. IIT Madras, BTech, Ohio State, IIS Bangalore, and most of my career is in Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area. We started Zebi more than 3 years ago, for just about 3 years ago. What is Zebi really? Blockchain in India's big data. Is that right? A little bit drilled out, I can see. We started off as blockchain in just India's big data because obviously we're focused here. I relocated in 2015 December, and we saw a huge opportunity. I'll talk a little bit more about the opportunity. But as of now, from January 2018 onwards, we're seeing incoming calls from more than India. US, Australia, Africa, Bangladesh, many more countries, Middle East. There are consultants, there are prospects that are trying to talk to us and see if they can benefit from these blockchain tools. The reason is not marketing, not a lot of money spent on advertising. We didn't spend anything at all. We spent very little on marketing. The reason is really innovation. And I'm hoping all of you, or at least some of you, will become innovators, entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurism is actually encouraged a lot, but innovation, true innovation, doing something new. Not just focused on just getting revenues in the next month or next year. And that's what a lot of, unfortunately, most of the VCs in India, they encourage. Getting revenue somehow, because that's a metric that they can measure and they can somehow feel good about. But you have to focus on building something, building a cool new product that nobody else has. I hope all of you guys get inspired by Zebi's story and build something new for the whole world, not just for India. Okay? Again, we start off with blockchain in India's big data. Now we're doing blockchain in all of big data. So the topic, I guess, is blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So a little bit of that is already taken away, and we have a very unique structure even for the team. Right? We have a few mentors, architects, advisors that that have full-time jobs in Silicon Valley. They work in big data, they work in machine learning, they work in blockchain. And they mentor here, they mentor our Vizag and Hyderabad teams. That's a very interesting model because if you start really fresh, it's very difficult to understand the real world. At least when I graduated in 1993 from IIT Madras, I had no clue about the real world. I have reasonably good grades, but nothing about the real world. Because you need that mentorship, you need that guidance from somebody that's senior, that's kind of part of the game, part of your story, part of your venture. So if you're starting on your own, find your mentor, find your people that actually trust you or you trust them, and get their help. And we are fortunate to have these advisors, mentors from US, from mostly from IITs, and they have a stake in the company, they have equity, so they are very motivated. And both the Vizag and Hyderabad teams, they get that continuous guidance from them. And that's why we were able to create what I call as globally innovative platform. Right? We already have a live customer, and as I'll explain a little bit later, having a live customer in blockchain space is very rare. So it's very difficult to do. Blockchain itself is new, and especially in 2015 and 16, it was much more difficult to sell. In 2017, there's a lot of press about blockchain. People kind of know what is blockchain. It's become more cool, more hot. Right? 2017 has been relatively easier, but it's never easy to sell unless you have a great product. Right? So we again are getting global coverage. VC, Forbes, NASDAQ. You can research more on that. Again, the route is not marketing. All of these are not paid articles. Right? All of those reporters, they talk to us and they talk to other reporters on their own. Before we go into a little bit more about Zebi, or product, I want to define the problem. What is the problem that we're solving? And when 2015 started, where did we start? Zebi, we actually, honestly, interestingly, we didn't think of blockchain at all in the beginning. So 2015, early, I think April or around that time is when the inception of Zebi happened. So the word Zebi comes from Zebi byte. Kilobyte, megabyte, keep going, and then you get a very large number, 1 trillion gigabytes. And we wanted to do something on big data. And a lot of data is getting created. By 2020, India will have 3 zettabytes of data. And the world will obviously have much more data. Right? And obviously, it's constantly getting created. More data is getting added. And, as of now, as we speak, there is not much technology that's actually using all of the data that's available out there to make decisions, to make life easy for all of us, for the whole planet. And one of the big reasons is security. Data security is a huge problem, especially for India. So imagine how long it takes to apply for a loan, to get loan approval, or to get credit card approval, credit card. For students, probably it's even impossible, right? I don't know if you can get a credit card if you're a student. That's really because the data availability is so low here. Like the people that have the data, the governments or the banks or the education universities, they are holding it. They're kind of trying to keep it secure. I mean, the data is leaking anyway, but they're trying to keep it secure. And because they're so paranoid about keeping it secure, they're not making it convenient to access. So just go back to the little bit of the story that I have here. If you really read back a few thousand years, at some point in time there is no unity, right? And if humans, obviously humans were there many thousand years ago, and if people wanted to persist information, if people wanted to share information, it would have been very, very inconvenient. And by definition, that's very secure. I don't know if you thought about it. Both security and convenience are always fighting with each other. Right? If you make something really inconvenient, it's by definition secure. So in all of those cases, especially before the digital computer came, right, the security was very, very high by definition because it's so inconvenient to store information, persist information, share information. If a hacker would steal data from a very private government meeting, he can't do anything about it because he can't record it, he can't write it anywhere, he has to remember, he has to tell people, and it's very difficult. And nowadays, WikiLeaks is so popular, right? WikiLeaks is, they're doing something probably not so legal, but they're helping the world in some sense. Right? They're leaking information that governments should have shared in the first place. The point I'm trying to make is securing data is very, very difficult. And because the industrial evolution, obviously when the printing press came, a lot of things changed. It was so easy to create documents, create certificates, create proofs, share, store, persist information. A lot of convenience, a lot of efficiency came about. So the security is gradually going down, right? More convenience, more efficiency, by definition, less security and less protection. Then obviously the digital computer came less than 100 years ago. Right? So the point I'm trying to make is even the problem exists even right now, and there is more opportunity for additional companies. I'm talking to Aman here. He's the next speaker. So we realize that we are competing on one level. He has a product that has some common features, but it doesn't matter. The opportunity is so big. There are multiple companies. If you do a great job, you can do well. And data security is a big space, huge space. There are close to $1 trillion opportunity out there in the whole world, right? $1,000 billion opportunity. Both data tampering and data stealing or data hacking as it's called. Right? Both are huge problems and they're getting bigger and bigger because the hackers are always ahead of us. It's easy to steal than protect. If you want to write an algorithm to protect data, it will take probably several months, and if somebody wants to hack and research how to hack, it will probably take less time for them, right? So the hackers always have the advantage. Until blockchain, right? So the world was looking for a system where anything that's done with the data, right? It's so fluid, it's difficult to protect because all of your, let's say I'm a company or I'm a university. I have professor is here, right? So let's say I want to protect the information of the students, right? Their degree certificate, their contact information, their personal information, sensitive information, they have the bank. How do I protect it? If it says precious diamond, I can actually store it somewhere far away, make it really inconvenient to access, and again, by definition, it's very secure. So data, you can't make it inconvenient. People try to, but it won't serve the purpose, right? So you have to make it convenient. It's already accessible by your database administrators, your insiders that know all the passwords, that essentially have the whole architecture, right? And they can steal the data if they want. And we were looking for a solution. Really, the world was looking for a solution where when you do certain things, can you make it completely immutable? Can you enforce rules? The next slide has that, right? So that's what we do. Can you enforce rules without any human intervention? Can you do certain things where it doesn't matter, you need to have all the passwords, the whole architecture details, you can't change. So we looked at hardware machines, just going back to Zebi's story, right? 2015 is when we started. And we were looking for solutions to protect data. We looked at hardware machines that become read-only after the first write. They call write once and read only after that. Read many, I guess. But those actually do the job. What happens is you write once, and the program inside the hardware automatically burns the chip. Because it's a CD-ROM. So you write once, and after that, nobody can modify it. No human can modify it, essentially. Right? It's programmed into the hardware directly. But it's very expensive to do big data. That's when we stumbled on blockchain. This was like November, December 2015 timeframe. And obviously, we never looked back after that. The whole of 2016, we spent creating our own Zebi private blockchain, enforcing these things, right? No human intervention. All the rules are enforced by the machine, and smart contracts. So maybe we talk a little bit about smart contracts. Look at any legal agreement between companies. A lot of time, there are a lot of pending cases, right? Because the contract itself is very vague, and there may be conflicts within the rules of the contract itself. Right, like rule number 13 would be conflicting with rule number 46. And how do you even enforce it? And if somebody breaks it, what happens? You go to court. So smart contract does obviously enforce the rules by the machine. Another important thing it does is it makes the whole thing transparent. The whole world can see it. Let's say I have a smart contract between myself and an insurance company. And if the insurance company is not willing to pay me, and this is actually a story that actually happened in US insurance companies, probably happens in India and other countries too. Most of the, this was like 20 years ago or so, there was a movie in the US. Apparently at some stage in the life cycle of the insurance companies, health insurance companies, right? So the company is supposed to pay the consumer, the money for the medical expenses that they incur. And the insurance company is collecting the premium every month, every year, right? So obviously, if everybody comes up with a claim, everybody says that I have a disease and I need to be paid, the insurance company may go bankrupt and they may not have enough money to pay everybody, right? And they have to do their due diligence. They have to make sure that this is valid claim, and if there are too many claims coming, they may have to increase the premium. So they have to have a way of managing their cost. The cost is anything that's paid to the consumer, it's a cost to the company, right? Anything that, the premium is coming into the company, that's obviously, that would add to their profit, right? So, because they didn't have technology or they're just too lazy to build this intelligent logic, most of the insurance companies in US, what they did is simply, anybody files a claim saying, I spent $500 in hospital today, please refund me because I bought insurance policy from you. You know what they did? Every claim, everything that comes from a person, they decline on the first day. Doesn't matter. They don't look at anything. And especially, if it's more than a certain amount, right? Any large claims, more than a certain dollar amount, they always decline. No logic, because they don't have time, they don't have energy, they're just too lazy. And how is it visible? Obviously, the company, whatever the company is doing, these are all private matters. And there is no publicly visible system that can show what's happening. How many claims they decline, how many claims they decline on the first day of the filing. And all of this data was completely private information for the company. And the company knows it too. That's why they're able to do it. So with smart contracts, what happens is all the interactions, for example, in this case, interaction of the consumer with the company, that can be made visible in the public domain. Obviously, the sensitive information can still be hidden. How much amount is being paid, maybe that can be hidden, or the name and contact numbers of the consumers, that can be hidden, right? So a lot of sensitive information can be hidden, but very, very important public information can be actually put in smart contract. And that will avoid various types of fraud. It will force even the people with power, act by the rules, right? So once there is a rule that's set up and everybody agrees by the rules, everybody has to follow. There's no exception. That's the power of blockchain, and that's what we did now with Zebi private blockchain. Right? The specific features, we talked about rules and enforcement without any human intervention. So what are the particular rules? What are the specific rules in Zebi? If you look at the first one, speed and efficiency, that's already there in the US. It's unfortunately not there in India yet. The example that I had, how much time does it take to approve a credit card application or a loan application? Much faster in Western countries. And obviously, it takes several days and maybe a couple of weeks in India. Right? So the speed and efficiency are there in US, but the other three things, reliability, trust, tamper-proof, transparency, and hacker-proof security, they're not there in anywhere right now. It's kind of a big gap in data security. It's very, very, obviously, it's a big opportunity for all of you future entrepreneurs. Right? That's what we did. We already implemented most of trust tamper-proof. That's our Zebi chain product that provides the tamper-proof protection to any type of high-value data. And then speed and efficiency to what we call as Zebi gateway, for data as a service APIs. And the other two are, in progress. Security hacker-proof is implemented to some extent. There are many more features part of the design we're implementing. And the last one, the inclusive data democracy, that's actually my personal favorite. What does it mean? We talk about democracy. What does data democracy mean? So individuals, we own our data. Although it's sitting in the bank or it's sitting in government or it's sitting in any of the large centralized organizations, they're the custodians. They have the technology, they have security measures, but the pattern or the idea of data democracy is that we as individuals actually own the data. That's actually true. And that is really picking up steam. European Union is coming up with a regulation, General Data Protection, it's called GDPR, very famously called. Right? So they don't have all of the data democracy features, but they have many. They have simple rules like, as an individual, I can go and tell my bank or tell my credit card company saying, please delete all my data. And the company is expected to follow that rule. The individual has the power now. Right? They can tell the companies what to do with their data. Right? And the technology is what obviously will change everything. Right? And that's what that's part of our design. Okay, so we, just to recap, right, we talked about what is the problem. The problem is persisting and securing and while securing the data, still making it available for easy access. Again, secure, easy access, right? And the next thing is we talked about, smart contracts, blockchain, how we do it, what we do, right? Now we should think about, what type of data records we should protect. So we started off with land records, obviously. And land records, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So many students, we only have one professor here, right? It's open. Obviously, if you have a relevant question. Okay, so what type of data are we talking about? Is it just land records, or is it just education records, or is it just employment records, or is it just bank transaction records? Really, everything. There is a lot of value in most of data. And all of that valuable, sensitive data can be protected, and because it's made available for easy access, the whole system becomes efficient. The cost will reduce. All of us can do things, better things, innovate better. The friction will reduce, the cost of operations, the cost of data exchange, overall review process, the fraud will reduce, right? And we didn't put, for example, police records. We put health records. There are many more coming. So I intentionally said a few examples. Right, these are just literally few examples. If you think of, if you spend 10 more minutes, I'm sure you'll think of something else. Port records, for example. And then different types of industries that could change. Direct marketing, for example. Right now it's a big mess. The whole world actually. Right? I keep getting zillions of spam messages, emails, cell phone, text messages. Even though my cell phone number is there, but even though I'm in the do not disturb list, D&D or do not bother me list, people still send me messages, right? Because the information about who is sending a message to how many people in a day, or how many times my personal phone number is being used by companies, That's again completely hidden in private records of companies that don't care or don't want to tell us. Right? With our technology, with anybody or competing technology using blockchain, that can be put in smart contract. Right? So people will know it's completely visible, cannot be tampered. The fundamental rules of blockchain can be implemented in direct marketing, for example. It's very unexpected, not many people are actually thinking or talking about this. If you look at corporate recruitment, for example, employment verification. So right now, not much verification is being done. We did our own research on verifying the background verification companies. Background verification company is supposed to verify an employee, their information, their salary, various details, but nobody is verifying the background verification companies. There is a problem there. I can't tell you everything now, but they're not able to do a lot of things just because, again, most companies are hoarding data they're not willing to share. Even the data that they're legally supposed to share. Again, the technology is not there, it's a low trust environment. And the blockchain technology can change it, and it's already changing to some extent. Because the technology is providing trust, two companies can trust each other, two individuals can trust each other because the transparency or the controls, the rules are being enforced by the machine. They can trust the machine because it's not in the lab. And similar things for background checks and consumer lending or credit scoring. Okay, a little bit more about Zebi solution. Basically, we said Zebi chain, Zebi gateway. We said literally different types of data that could be protected. Okay, so think of this, Zebi chain installed at hundreds of locations. We already have Zebi chain at APCRDA. CRDA stands for Capital Region Development Authority. Right? All of their land records are protected by Zebi chain. Again, once it's put on Zebi chain, it's immutable. Nobody can change it. And imagine these Zebi chains being installed at different what we call as data providers or data custodians. Right? There could be a Zebi chain, for example, at IIT Indore, protect all of the student records, or at an employer, protect all of their employee data, or the health records, various types of records. So there is again, the data is not leaving the system. The data is still there with each of the data providers. We're only adding the immutable system next to the existing database. Right? And then there is just one gateway for all of the country. There is one Zebi data gateway for all of the country. And it's a pass-through. It's not a vault. It's not persisting anything. It's intentionally pass-through. It's just a gateway. So the request comes into the gateway, and then it talks to a Zebi chain appropriately, and then the response is sent back to the requester. So it replaces very old traditional models like Equifax or Civil or many models that are actually very hacker friendly. I mean, they're actually inviting the hacker to come and hack them. And Equifax already happened, and many other centralized databases where a lot of information is stored in one place. Hacking is going on as we speak. Right? And in this model, because the data is distributed at each of the data providers, there is a centralized Zebi data gateway. There's only one Zebi data gateway for the whole country, but it doesn't persist anything. If a hacker comes to Zebi data gateway, there's nothing to steal. Right? That's why the security hacker comes. But at the same time, if a legitimate data requester wants to access data, they get instant APIs, and the fact that they access the data, it goes into the smart contract. Right? Again, transparent, very visible, enforced, rules enforced by the machine. Okay, I think that's it about Zebi. So if you let me pause for a few seconds at least. It looks like you guys are very busy thinking, or maybe you don't have any questions. Maybe it's very clear. You guys understand everything I said so far. Okay, Aman says it's clear. So, okay, so the next kind of section is talking about blockchain trends as I see it. Obviously, just one person's opinion or some of my team members' opinion. Cryptocurrencies trends. Right? So, maybe a little bit what do we have here? Okay, so when we talk about blockchain itself, the history of blockchain, and we talk about the history of Bitcoin, and we should talk about the history of we talk about the history of Zebi. We talk about the history of Bitcoin or blockchain. Anybody knows when Bitcoin first started? 2009. Yeah. So before 2009, there's no Bitcoin. It never existed. Right? So 2008 was a very interesting year in the global financial world. Very, very established companies, more than 100 years old, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, and even more companies at the global level, they were under the brink of failing. So some of them already closed down. The debt cycle, the people unable to pay debts, there is so much chain reaction between banks and financial institutions. So if one company goes down because they're not able to pay their debts, it causes a chain reaction because another company that's expecting money from this company that's going down, even they can't pay anymore now. And because this other company is going down, there's a third company that actually goes down because they can't pay their commitments now, right? So there is a huge chain reaction that's happening that happened in 2008 in the US, and the US government had to step in and say we'll give guarantees because we know that these are the companies that are trying to do the right thing. We know their bosses, we know their executives. We want to support them because if a few big companies fail, it's considered too big to fail. Right? The whole financial system could collapse, country could collapse, and obviously the whole world, could have collapsed. So U.S. government came in and said, "I'll support the banking system, I'll support the financial system, and I'll give you money. I'll give you US dollars." Where did they get the money from? It's not like U.S. government had a lot of money in their accounts, right? So they just printed. They printed money because they can. They are the government, right? So they printed brand new currencies, and what that literally means is the new currencies that's coming into the system. Yes, it's helping solve a very important problem, but it's creating a negative side effect. Very, very negative side effect. The problem is now the value of dollar is literally down, right? If you're holding $1,000 in your account, same thing, 1,000 rupees in your account. Just because there is new supply into the market, the value of your money has suddenly gone down. You haven't done anything wrong, right? So if you really modern-looking, forward-looking geeks, very good in programming, very good in understanding mathematics, understanding economics probably, right? Said, oh man, this is very unfair, right? They said if a country is allowed to control a currency, right, it could become bad, it could become dangerous for the society, right? Because the country will have its own intentions, its own liabilities, obligations, and it could be detrimental to the society. It could be detrimental to the holders of the currency, right? And other countries are doing it too. I mean, many countries. It's just not US, right? Many countries print currencies for various reasons that they think are good for their, for their citizens or for their economy. And these people, 2008, end of 2008, there was a white paper published by an anonymous person called Satoshi Nakamoto, right? So he basically published a white paper saying this is the idea of a new currency, and there is no controller. So he was very wise. The person or a group or a she or a he, the author was very, very kind of thorough in what they did, right? They didn't say this particular government is bad, so let me allow a different government to do the printing of the currency. They said any government, any human could be bad. We are all just humans, right? So he said, can we create a system where printing of currencies is completely decentralized? So who is going to control it? Who is going to make sure that, for example, fake currencies don't come in? Who is going to control and guarantee the transaction? Between, when somebody is sending money, sending this new currency from one person to another person, who's going to guarantee it? Who's the bank? Right? So that's where he created, essentially it was a white paper. 2008, I don't remember, November, October, that's when it was published. And somebody implemented it in 2009, and obviously a lot of things changed since then, right? So that's again the power of implementing very simple rules. I mean, if you look at the rules, the technology itself is not too innovative in that sense of they used existing cryptography, existing economic models. They use a lot of existing technologies, but the way they combine everything, distributed systems, for example, it was there for a few decades. I mean, I did my IIT Indore research. My master's project was in distributed systems, right? There's been that was like 94. It's been there for some time. So, but they, this team, this person, he was able to combine all of these technologies, distributed systems, cryptography, public key, private key, various novel ideas, and put them all together into a system where A new currency can be created and it's controlled by the crowds together. Right? All of the nodes, as it's called in the blockchain, they control they have to give a consensus. That's what is a consensus protocol. So more than 50% of the nodes have to agree and say yes, it's a valid transaction, and that's when a transaction is approved. And the nodes that are actually doing the consensus are adding a new block to the system. They're called miners. They get rewarded using this new currency that is being created. Right? Here, okay, hopefully. So, a lot of years have passed. Like I was saying earlier, 2017 is probably the year blockchain and Bitcoin are seeing large-scale adoption. In 2015 is when Zebi started. 16, not much reception. We've been talking to people. And 17, probably the second part of 17 onwards, it's like it took off completely. It became really crazy. Many Indian mainstream press, especially in India, from 2017 second half onwards, there were a lot of articles coming on Bitcoin, blockchain. Yeah.
How could others validate the transaction they don't know about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So he's asked, what's your name?
Arjun.
Arjun. Okay, Arjun is asking, how can a miner validate a transaction that they have no clue about? So the way it works is somebody who's sending the money, right? Let's say I have an account that has certain number of bitcoins or Ethereum, right? These two are very popular, number one, number two cryptocurrencies, right? So as the account holder that holds n number of bitcoins or Ethereum, I have the private key, and that's the only way to signify or prove to the world that I am the owner of the account. And using the private key, I can send a message to the world and I can digitally sign it. So essentially what I can do is, using the private key, I can encrypt a message. And encryption and creation of the message is done only because of the private key. So if somebody does not have the private key, then they can't create the message. That's again, standard public key, private key cryptography, right? So, but anybody that has the public key, that can decrypt the message and confirm that the message was actually created originally by the private key owner, right? See what I'm saying, right? So the private key is obviously there only with the account owner, the person that actually holds the number of coins that are there in the account, and they can send a message. It's called a signed message, and the message can be sent only by the owner of the account, and anybody in the world can decrypt using the public key. The public key describes the account really. Public key, account number, they're all the same. Account address, as it's called, they're all the same, right? So using the address of the account, anybody in the world can decrypt and confirm that yes, this message saying I want to transfer 2 bitcoins from address XYZ, address is the public key, right? Address XYZ to some other address actually came from the owner of that address. That anybody can confirm, right? And obviously they see in the distributed ledger. There is a ledger, there are more than 8,000 nodes in Bitcoin blockchain, right? So all of these nodes, for example, you guys can actually become a node. Obviously you need a lot of compute power, you need electricity, but you can theoretically become a node in the blockchain. So these nodes have the full blockchain, all of the blocks, all the transactions that ever happened in the whole history of Bitcoin since 2009, right? So they can compare and say, oh, this account has 10 Bitcoins, and the message is signed by this account owner, and they're intending to send 9 bitcoins. So okay, there's enough balance, and the message actually came from the rightful person, and they approve the transaction. And this validation is done by at least half of the nodes in the blockchain, right? Again, automatically through the software, there is a client software that you download, and that's what it does. And all of this software is in the public domain, obviously GitHub. You can, right now, you can go to GitHub and see all of the code, what's running inside each of these thousands of nodes in Ethereum or Bitcoin. Hopefully that makes sense. Yep. Okay. So now to trends. There are 3 trends that are very popular, right? One is the trend of a lot of pilots. I think this is possible, or this is the only way it can happen, right? Blockchain is so new, and there's a lot of excitement, especially from a small group of people, like a few thousand people. back in 2013 or 14 time frame. So in 2009 time frame, not many people really knew. But around 2013, 14, it actually did pick up a lot of traction. A small group of people, several thousands of people across the world, they knew about it. They were creating, what are known as decentralized apps on Ethereum blockchain, other blockchains, right? A lot of pilots, and obviously 16 and 17 saw many more pilots. Even in India, there are many companies creating pilots, proof of concepts, right? Not too many production instances. Obviously, we are fortunate to have live production customer paying government for our Zebi blockchain solution. We feel that will change. That will actually become true for many more companies, and not just for Zebi. So 2018, we'll see many more production instances, many more companies figuring out a way to actually solve a real problem, not just a pilot, not just a theory, not just an idea, right? So pilot to production, that's a trend that we feel will pick up, both 2018, 19, in the coming year. And then smart contracts. Traditional businesses will realize the power of smart contracts, and they'll realize that it will actually be a win-win, right? If a business is very genuine, they want to do the right thing for the consumers, they can expose all the information that can be made public into the smart contract. Again, it can transform, it can differentiate themselves to start with. It can transform the whole industry and the whole society. And data integrity itself, right? The protection. Obviously, data protection is something that's very unique to Zebi, and we feel that more and more companies will start doing that. And as of until last year or the year before, most of the blockchain use cases are in the BFSI, financial industry, payment gateway. There are like billion companies doing peer-to-peer payment transfers, or doing a new type of currency, new type of system that's very similar to existing BFSI banking financial industry products. Right? And we expect more of data protection. Like supply chain, for example, needs blockchain. Right? Can we make the whole supply chain totally transparent and give a 100% guarantee to the buyer of the product? So let's say organic milk is created or organic products are created. How do you know that they're really organic? How do you know the source? How were they created? Is there any fraud that happened or were they manipulated? So all of that can go into blockchain, and the supply chain industry itself will change. So essentially, protecting the integrity of data in various industries, right? And more and more companies, we are probably very early stage doing blockchain for big data, and obviously it's an open space, anybody can do. We feel more and more companies will do big data, security challenges, and IoT obviously. Okay, I think this may be the last slide, or maybe 2 more slides. Okay, types of blockchains. Yeah. Which works through voting. Yeah. It's actually not very fast. That's one of the biggest problems that both blockchain and Ethereum are struggling to do. So I believe they don't do too many transactions in a second. Like for example, Visa credit card, right? They do millions of transactions in a second. But Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchains, they don't cross a few thousands. So there is a limitation, because that's the fundamental property of every miner, every node intending to add a new block or verifying a transaction. They have to go through a lot of computation. That's to make sure that it cannot be reproduced, or it cannot be done easily, so that the proof of work, as it's called, right? The work is made really so big that the proof of work is very reliable. So there are newer protocols coming on doing the same proof of work, or consensus model, as it's called, right? There are different types of consensus model where how do you confirm that a new transaction is valid and legitimate? It can be added to the blockchain. So that's the fundamental question. And like you're kind of implying, yes, it is slow relatively compared to what can current internet speeds and current data transfer speeds can do, because of the competition involved. Very high heavy competition. Yeah. Well, you're asking why is the consensus not mandating more than 50%? Like everybody. No, that's one of the factors probably, but another factor is these are all distributed nodes, right? So, like for example, my kids, both my kids, they're in 7th grade and 10th grade. They're a node. They act as a blockchain node or an Ethereum node, right? So they could be offline for a few minutes or a few seconds, right? So you can't expect all the nodes to participate every moment. So just to make it practical, the consensus model makes it relatively easy to make it happen. At the same time, it's impossible to tamper or create a fraud transaction. So these are all distributed across the world, right? And a lot of times you don't even know where the nodes are located really. If you want to actually bribe people and put a your own personal blockchain transaction or Bitcoin transaction, you can't do it because you don't even know where to go. Okay. So types of blockchains. How many? Okay, we have a question.
So once submitted, are the smart contracts modifiable? Once I submit a smart contract to a blockchain,
Yeah.
is that contract modifiable?
The code.
Yeah.
The source code is not modified.
So, so you expect me to capture all the nuance of the company in one piece of code and get it right in one go?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So that's where there is innovation waiting to happen, right? So the Ethereum public blockchain, that's the most popular one for creating smart contracts, right? So the way it works is when it's deployed, the runtime Java object ID, it's not Java, it's called Solidity, very similar to Java, right? So the runtime object ID of the code that's deployed, that's made unique and that's made the identifier of the smart contract. So even if you change one line of the code, it becomes a new contract, right? So how do you make sure you test all the use cases? It's not possible, it's very, very difficult. So there are test nets, there are test Ethereum nets, there are test Bitcoin networks. Obviously you can test, as part of our Zebi ICO, we created 2 smart contracts and it was like, we just had to spend a lot of time testing. Fortunately, we didn't have any bugs, we didn't have any issues. But the world is full of horror stories when it comes to smart contracts. Right? Money stolen, smart contracts having bugs, having leaks. Right? Hackers are, again, it's very easy to hack. Right? Once the smart contract is deployed, everybody can see it. And if somebody spends a few days researching, finding out, oh man, there is a bug and I can hack, the hacker can hack very quickly. There is a huge advantage the hacker has. When the smart contract developer, they have to spend a lot of time testing. Yes, that's a big problem currently. And what I believe will happen is somebody will come out with a new type of system where it will be difficult to create bugs. It will be easy to create bug-free smart contracts, bug-free code. So the focus of a new language, a new platform for a smart contract, that's what Zebi is researching too. I'm sure my competitors are researching too. Where the developers, productivity is increased, and the human is not allowed to make a mistake. If they make a mistake, the language, the platform can identify and tell them proactively. Make sense? Okay, how many types of blockchains are you guys aware of? Like a real blockchain, the public blockchain is one example. Maybe I should just tell you. Ethereum, Bitcoin, there are lots of blockchains. Like there is something called EOS. These are all public blockchains. Then there is a idea of a private blockchain, Hyperledger, a few other, IBM and a few other open source companies doing open source. These are all private blockchains. And there is a middle ground, it's called consortium blockchains, and where it's a little bit open. Private blockchain is completely closed, like you can't join a private blockchain. But consortium blockchains are where it's a little bit open and you can join. Yeah.
I think the idea and advantage of blockchain is to keep the ledger public. So doesn't having a private blockchain defeat that purpose?
Yeah, you're very right. At the same time, all of the sensitive data cannot be put in public blockchain, right? So there is a little bit of balancing required. So what the Hyperledger or Zebi private blockchain, what we do is, the tamper-proof is provided by the private blockchain. All of the sensitive data, private data is within the system, so that the governments are the custodians of the banks, the custodians of the private data. They don't have to put everything on public blockchains. What we do at Zebi is we have a hash on the Ethereum public blockchain. Right? It's a one-way hash. So anybody that has the private information, they can audit and confirm that it's not tampered with. But if somebody has only the public hash, then they can't go back to the private data. Okay, and then there is a new pattern that's evolving. I mean, honestly, even I don't know too much about this, but it's I keep seeing emails forwarded, WhatsApp messages forwarded from people. A direct acyclic graph. Think of it as blockchain is block, 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 block. It's like linked list, right? List of blocks, chain of blocks. And then apparently, DAG, it's called. It has, the blocks are linked up. So it's easier to verify, the consensus models are much faster. But I haven't seen the full proof yet. I haven't seen, at least maybe I haven't understood that completely, but they should research it kind of more. Okay, I think this is the last slide. So I don't know if it's relevant for you guys or not. Not many entrepreneurs here, not many people that are willing to raise funds. Maybe you will become entrepreneurs and want to raise funds. Right? So ICOs. Have you heard of this before? ICOs? Yes. Yeah, initial point of it, right? So when we saw the liquidity history, like 2009 is when Bitcoin became open or public. Then Ethereum started around 2013. And from 2015 onwards, they have this feature called what the very very forward-looking visionary founder of Ethereum saw is many more companies when they want to raise funds. When they want to raise funds for creating a new project, for example, on blockchain, how do they get money? Right? The traditional venture capital model is becoming older and older, right? It's still centralized. We all, as individuals, store money in our mutual funds or various types of centralized systems where we put money in them, and there is a fund manager that's supposed to be responsible. And we don't know what they do, but they get huge commissions, and again, very similar to a centralized bank or a government, right? So what these people saw is, can we make that completely decentralized? And there are already interestingly existing models like a Kickstarter, for example. It doesn't use, I don't think they use blockchain initially. Kickstarter started, right? Kickstarter, the way it works is, let's say I want to build a robot, very advanced robot, and it costs maybe $500 to build, right? And it's very useful. People can keep the robot at home. People may want to actually buy it and have real use of the robot. And this person, entrepreneur, maybe he has a great idea. It's very expensive to build. Right? Where will they get the money from? The way they started was, Kickstarter is a platform where an entrepreneur, a company can come and present the idea. 10 individual people, okay, I have this great idea, this presentation, you guys like it, and I'm going to build a product for you. You can build as many products as you guys want, right? So as individuals, you can say, oh, I can have some money. This product looks really cool, so I'll fund your project. I'll give you some money, right? And these people give money, and the entrepreneur goes and builds the product, and when the product is ready, then the early supporters, they probably get the product at a discount, right? So kind of a similar model here, right? What ICOs do is they provide a way to entrepreneurs to access funds directly from individuals, right? There is no middleman, there is no banker, there is no venture capital person that's involved, there is no fund manager involved. So obviously there is a big risk. As an individual, how do I trust that this company that's issuing new coins, essentially, right, new currency? Now, earlier until this period, there were only a few cryptocurrencies, right? Now, after this 2015 time frame, 14 time frame, many new currencies are getting created because Ethereum made it really easy to. Again, because it's so easy to create, a lot of people just created their own currencies, right? And many of them are actually fakes. Like people created something called dog coin. Apparently, it's a joke, right? And if you kind of read below the whole document, you will say that it's a joke, but a lot of people didn't even go that far. People just put money in it. They bought dog coin. They helped the fund raise a lot of money, right? So that's the problem with not having a mediator, not having a banker, or not having a fund manager, right? So as individuals, we need to be more responsible. We need to do our due diligence. We need to kind of step up and do what is needed to evaluate companies properly. Right? It's not done, obviously, the whole ICO process to be dangerous. Really. Okay, what else do we have? Right. Essentially, that's the idea. The company is what is known as utility tokens, right? They get the right to buy their products, and the token holders, the people that are putting money, they essentially get to pay for those products using those new coins that are just getting created. This is the last slide. Okay, so a little bit of comparison between VCs and VCs again, like we talked a little bit earlier, right? There is fund managers, there is venture capital firms, and the biggest problem that I saw the ICO model is solving is this. If you look at the current market, for example, right, Indian VCs have become very conservative. They're not willing to spend too much just because of the historical background. I mean, they haven't had exits, as it's called. I mean, they didn't make too much profit. Right? They became very, very conservative, and in some sense, they're more conservative than a typical bank that's issuing loans. I mean, banks are issuing loans more eagerly than venture capital. They're supposed to venture, but unfortunately, they're kind of lost on how to venture, right? But at the same time, if an Indian company wants to raise funds, I think that's going to become more and more popular. There is a VC in US and other countries that may have the money, and the capital markets are actually pretty good in US. For example, last few years, the equity markets have been going up, right? There's a lot of extra money for US venture capital funds, but by definition, they don't go out of their region. So they don't actually come to India, they don't come to other countries to invest in companies, fund any projects, right? So the biggest problem the ICO model is solving is removing the geography boundaries completely, right? So anybody sitting anywhere in the world, obviously they better do the evaluation of the project. If they like the project, they can participate in the fundraise, right? They don't have to be in the same country. And obviously, when a company does ICO, just like Zebi did an ICO just a few weeks ago. It seems like a long time, but we were fortunate to raise a lot of money very, very quickly. And again, just because of the product that we built, the live customer that we already have. So we have that huge advantage of, again, if you have a great product or if you have a great idea, there are already people that are willing to fund projects, right? There are people that want to participate in great new innovative projects and ideas. And you'll suddenly have access to all of these people across the globe. There's also a big responsibility now, right? You're visible, there are a lot of people watching you, there are a lot of people waiting to get updates, waiting to get responses on the progress of the project. So there could be a problem, if your project is not doing well, then that information is visible to everybody and it may be difficult to manage, right? So there is a bigger responsibility in the ICO model. So as an entrepreneur, you have to make sure the idea is really good and there is a reasonable level of confidence in succeeding. That's it. Any questions, guys? Thank you, guys.